Last year was an outstanding time for new game releases, or so I heard. There are a lot of series I never got into that I want to get started on, so most of 2023 for me was focused on playing games from all kinds of generations. I only played 4 games that came out last year. I won't be able to come up with a top 5, let alone a top 10. That's why this is going to be Game Over Hell Top 10 Games that I beat in 2023. How many games did I beat in 2023 in total? 51, and only 10 are going to be talked about briefly in this video. This is not going to be a bunch of reviews, especially since so many of those games already got reviewed at this very channel, so go watch those reviews after you're done watching this, won't you? It appears I'm in the minority who wasn't super happy with how the game looks and performs on Switch. I felt a bit of regret for buying this version of the game just because I knew it could have looked much better on my PC and the performance would fix some of my frustrations with how floaty the combat felt. Still, the narrative, the direction, the whole experience is one of a kind, and I'm just glad I played this game from start to finish. Most of the highs and lows felt justified by narrative context, much like any Yoko Taro game. And by the time I was done, I finally understood why he has so many fans. Even the worst parts, frustrating as they were, felt very immersive and like things I had to go through to really connect with the characters' struggles. Something I think Drakengard tried to do, but nope, get out of here. Will this game rank higher for me if it looked and run better? I don't think so. Automata is a fantastic game, but the on-foot combat just did not grab me in a fundamental level, and I got really tired of the scenery. My favorite feature being figuring out ways to trivialize combat through the mod chips kinda speaks volumes. I didn't think this would end up in this list, but looking back, Classic Doom is just really easy to get into and replay for a quick session. It's one of those types of games I can just randomly start without feeling like there is a whole process to it. Doom 2 is not my favorite of the 2 first entries. I mentioned in my review how the map design was hit or miss, with some that make you run in circles forever in your first playthrough. But you know what? Not knowing what kind of experimental map was coming next did end up making the sequel feel fresh. And for every annoying to navigate map, there were really fun ones that made me willingly explore more than I needed. And of course, the Super Shotgun felt awesome to use. I haven't played Doom 2 mods myself, but there is an immense mod community for it too. So you know this game is still very popular decades later. Indie games that label themselves retro are a dime in a dozen. In my opinion, only a few really succeed in looking and playing the part. Fewer still really stand out from their sources of inspiration. This game could have just been one of the multiple hardcore indie platformers that demand you get good or quit crying. But Yacht Club Games made sure to make the experience very flexible for a wide range of player skill levels, that even though you will still die many times, the process of trying again is very forgiving and you have a lot of optional tools at your disposal. I beat this game twice and so can you. Go play it. Shovel Knight's inspirations are very obvious, and yet this franchise quickly earned its own name in the video game Walk of Fame. The character himself became the indie equivalent to Super Mario, for God's sake. Yeah, I know, some of you give that credit to Meat Boy or that guy from Cave Story, but hey, this is my story, my list. Yeah, we all know the story. Earthbound came out in '95 in a marketing campaign that didn't make any sense. It flopped hard. Then Smash Bros came out, people got curious about this NES character. They went in droves after Earthbound through surely legal means, and suddenly the game became a cult classic. Mechanically, it's almost a by-the-books Dragon Quest style game set in modern times, well, modern by 1995 standards. The charm comes from the distinct, quirky, and often unexpectedly emotionally rich writing direction of Shigesato Itoi, and just the many weird situations and locations the characters find themselves in during their journey. The cast of Earthbound is very colorful, the enemies can be just about anything, and looking from outside it might seem like a goofy game for little kids. but the end result is an adventure and a story that can be enjoyed by anyone, even if they're not into RPGs. Like many of you, this was my entry point to the Mother franchise. I absolutely loved the game. Nowadays, it's my least favorite of 3 to be honest. Yes, I do in fact like Mother 1 aka Earthbound Beginnings more than Earthbound. But so what? All 3 are very unique games in a franchise that influenced the creation of newer cult classics like Undertale and Omori. Mother 3 is my favorite, but Earthbound is what made me fall in love with the series, and I'm thankful for it. I can hear the horrified gasp from here. Yeah, I did put NieR in this list and yes, it's ranking higher than Automata. I don't have any objective reasoning why I like NieR more. What can I say? I like that NieR, I like Ine, I like Emil. I guess I like how somehow the setting feels the most medieval compared to Automata. I've always been a bigger fan of magic and fantasy over purely high technology, even though technically it's, well, if you know, you know. Above all else, I just like how the combat feels a lot more. It's janky, but it doesn't feel floaty. Heavy weapons feel actually heavy, and hitting things feels very satisfying. It's simple compared to Automata. Do a combo, roll and chain to more button mashing, or use Grimoire Vice for spells that make short work of a large number of enemies at once. I don't know, it just feels way better to me. I'm starting to think character action combat is hit or miss for me. Loved Bayonetta 1 and 2, couldn't get into NieR Automatas, and got bored with Final Fantasy 16. When it comes to action combat, sometimes simple is enough. Both NieR games had fantastic stories and characters, but I think I like the dark fairy tale askew concept of the first NieR's plot more. When I finished my review, I was worried people would think I like the game less than I really do. I love Super Mario RPG. I think some of the other Mario RPGs do things better, sure, but this game is an undeniable classic for anyone who played the games in the 90s, myself included. It does exactly what it set out to do. Be a very accessible, entry-level first foray into turn-based RPGs for people usually on the fence about giving them a shot. It's full of iconic Mario characters and enemies, and naturally platforming and minigames, which is perfectly fitting for Super Mario. Like any RPG, there is a lot of text, but it's very easy to read with a lot of humor and lighthearted banter spread in between. In typical Mario fashion, it might not get you to laugh or genuinely get the feels or anything since it's supposed to be very kid-friendly, but come on, it's harmless at worst. Besides, the soundtrack will make you feel something. The remake did add some things I found to be very unnecessary in what was already an easy game, but at the end of the day, there really is no reason to go back to the SNES original. This was actually the second time I finished the game, and it was very worth reliving this original PlayStation JRPG. It's not exactly just a cult classic, but it's not exactly mainstream either. I think at this point it's safe to say more people played the Xenoblade games as their first Tetsuya Takahashi game than Xenogears, just because of how old it is, and if you're one of those players, I really think you should give Gears a try. It doesn't play like Xenoblade, but it also doesn't play like other turn-based RPGs, including a fighting game-inspired combo and special move mechanic for your regular attacks, which makes the experience less passive. The game is known for its mecha gameplay as well, which you don't just fight in but also move around and do some janky platforming. Mechanically this game has aged, it definitely needs a good remaster, and that's not up to Monolith Soft since Square Enix owns the IP. Still, it's very much worth playing through for the story. It's one of the best in the genre when it comes to that. Even when it does fall into any of the known JRPG tropes, it uses them with certain twists that never take you out of what's going on. The amount of lore, world building, and just how everything ties up together nicely by the end is insane. I know a lot of people will disagree for reasons I don't want to talk about here because of spoilers, but to me, it doesn't matter what the full circumstances of the project were. Xenogears' narrative is perfectly fine the way it ended up. Really, the story is one of a kind, even though much of it bled into the Saga and Blade games. What? Why is Tears of the Kingdom 3rd? You said you were not impressed! It's almost embarrassing to talk about this. I noticed people who were unhappy with the game started commenting on my review, and at that point I actually had changed my mind on a number of things. Full story short, I gave the game a second playthrough after thinking back about some of my complaints. I don't think the game is all that much more than Breath of the Wild on steroids, but I also faulted the game for things that were, quite honestly, selective nitpicking. Judging a game harshly for repetition is something that I think every critic needs to think 3 or 4 times over. When it comes to open world games especially, it's important to ask yourself, why did they design it this way? Even if the way it was implemented doesn't necessarily appeal to you, does the reason such and such was implemented this way works in achieving what it was supposed to? I describe the game's collectibles as bloat, but that doesn't give them enough credit for what they were trying to do. If you like exploring, it's extremely easy to get lost wandering all over the place in the game. The collectibles are countless and spread around in form of wells, caves, Koroks, quests, and shrine rewards. That way, it takes very little time for the player to be making some kind of progress towards anything by just exploring. No matter where they wander off to, they're not actually wasting their time. That is a point that I completely missed when I made my original review, and on my second playthrough, I was a lot more understanding of it. What else really helped me appreciate the game more was not having to worry about beating it quickly. In truth, the second playthrough I started isn't over and won't be anytime soon. I just enjoy traveling around Hyrule and completing stuff in short bursts once in a while, and I think that's the best way to experience these last few Zelda games. But if you don't care about completing everything, none of this matters. The game points you where the destinations are, and you can just work towards that. Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild are still some of the most truly open world games out there in more ways than one. You don't have to do everything in the game. I still don't like the focus on ultra hand contraptions for the shrines though, so yeah, Tears of the Kingdom grew a lot on me, and I accrued nearly 300 hours in it last year. Nintendo, please ditch the building crap for the next game. It's fun to play around with from time to time, but the way the game tried to push it really ruined the momentum of the experience. Metroid Prime, the Wii version, was the first Metroid game I enjoyed playing, and yes, I did try Super Metroid before it, which might make some of you want to call my taste crap because of how there, but hey, it's thanks to Prime that I went back to play the other games, Super included, and learned to enjoy each of them. Except Metroid 2, I still don't like it. Prime Remastered is just one of my favorite games of all time with better visuals and peak performance. The only way I wasn't going to love it would be if they forced me to play without gyro support. Sorry guys, I absolutely hate playing first-person games with purely dual analog controls, so glad they give us more options here. Of all 3 Prime games, this is my favorite. Thanks to the atmosphere ranging from lonely and eerie to very peaceful, the varied environments, and don't forget all the space pirate phase on Roid Rage. Come on, you must have seen this coming. One of the few games I gave almost nothing but praise for since I started taking my channel seriously last year. Chain Echoes is an indie JRPG with writing so great and a combat system so effective with basically no incentive for grinding at all that apart from Chrono Trigger, I can't think of another that nailed the pacing just as well. It's not perfect. I've mentioned in my review how the sprites didn't show much emotion outside of combat, and the punctuation in some of the dialogue didn't seem appropriate for how the characters should be expressing themselves, and while the cast that is relevant to the main plot is well developed, the optional characters you can recruit are very one-dimensional. Those are minor issues because everything else is done so well. The scale of maps, the amazing music, the depth of the skill system, and because you can just grind character levels, you are forced to learn each boss mechanics through progress. This is very much a game that every person who thinks they care about solid new JRPGs need to play. And if you're skeptical about JRPGs being able to tell good stories with good characters, you too definitely should play Chained Echoes. And since finishing, I have since added it to my personal top 10 games of all time. So there you go. Those were my favorite games that I beat last year. I ranked them, but the truth is, I'd recommend playing any of them. Quick honorable mentions go to Punch-Out on the Wii, which is a very underrated game. Sea of Stars, if anything, for its unique stylish presentation, vibrant world. And Xenoblade 3 Future Redeem, which is a very fleshed out DLC expansion for its price, and an excellent wrap up for the trilogy. What were your favorite games that you played in 2023? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching and take care.